with the when you talked about the chronicling, even in the natural, because with me, especially as of late, I've been dealing a lot with communities who are being gentrified. So people who come in, and whatever the historical nature of that neighborhood is being changed for a new vision, for a new, and the issue is this: what you fail to either teach or what you fail to document properly, someone else can come in and redo it.
That's right.
And then you have no substance to even recognize this is what we had, or you have nothing to stand on to represent this was ours if you have no documentation. So someone could come in and sweep it right under your feet, from under your feet. And so so we're having an issue now where, especially in the neighborhood where I live, where you've had black businesses, you've had basically like basically they would say like a Harlem, a black Harlem, and many entrepreneurs, many different people in the community working together, supporting one another, and the newer generation did not see that, did not participate in that, and so there is a generation that's existing now that remember that, and because this newer generation wasn't really expressed that, they don't have the love and the care and the strength to know that that can be done because they didn't see that. But some generation did. And now, because some of that generation is gone, and because now a lot of people have more access and resources to do things, a lot of them who know about it and experience it have left the community. And so you're left with some people who may have a residual of their families' resources and properties, but they don't know really the impact that they had in it.
Since it's happening in such a massive ways all across the country, what role you think the church, as we know it, should be playing in, educating the body? Because you're talking about gentrification is happening right in the neighborhoods where all these churches, are located.
Right. I think that's a bigger issue because, so right now, people are like, I'll sell property to get a certain return. The problem is, because we're sometimes uneducated or we're unacquainted with what you need to really make something equivalent, we'll take something and then we'll realize, okay, this really wasn't sufficient. Because I didn't consider this, didn't consider that, I didn't consider the whole matter. Again, because we, may not have that resource to know what we need. So anyway, a lot of people are willing to get rid of their property. New people are coming in. And like you say, there are churches and so forth in the community. However, it's not even just church has changed, because church used to represent the center of the community. That used to be the place where we had the life because there was no other access. And so this is a place of spirituality, of politics, of community resource. It was your WIC, it was your welfare. It was a place where you got everything you needed, even education. And it got to a point now where we got fancy, we got some blessings from God, and as the blessings increase, we have all kind of schools and programs and buildings and agencies. So the church is now, kind of reduced to, well, it's whatever I want it to be. It's a social, it's a this or that, and it's not that core. So also it didn't have the respect and the power, and not only from the people as far as what shall I do to impact my community, but also the church itself doesn't necessarily feel like it has as much power because you have so many people helping out doing stuff. So because you have schools now, churches kind of, they may be involved, they may not encourage their parents to be part of the school advisory council or the PTA, but back in the day, that's where you had school, at the church house. And so there's such a disconnect now because of blessings. Sometimes people, assume blessings just, are going to be for an advancement. Blessings come, but they come at a cost. And sometimes it can cause us to be complacent, and it can cause us to be so comfortable that we don't pray, seek the face of God. We don't, really hone in. And so it's to the point now where what can the church do? Well, the core, I think, role of the church is to really teach the principles of God. And the core principle is family. And that's one thing I see that the church has kind of gotten a little off on, because what is family nowadays? There's so many different iterations of what this is and that is. And I think one of the basic things is to make sure we have as a fundamental thing the core principles of God. One is family. So you have a lot of single parent homes now. And single parent homes, you know, because of that pressure and different things, you have certain results from that. And the question is, what does the church do to first try to head off that we don't have so many single parent homes?
Okay. So you've said a lot here, okay? But the first thing, in addition to what you said, the first thing that popped into my mind, and it falls right into this warfare thing. Okay, so if you're looking deeper into the matter, who is behind the gentrification? Who is behind this single mom with no dad in the house? You see? So we can look at it from a social standpoint. Even more importantly, I think we have to look at it from a spiritual standpoint, because we identified earlier that the church was the foundation.
Right.
But then we talked about something that was that's very important. We talked about land. One of the first things that God gave man, Adam and Eve, he gave them land. Resources. He gave them land, and he said to dominate, to take care of the land. And when you neglect your first assignment to take care of what God has given you, what the Father has given you, and you fall into sin, then there will always rise an enemy or an adversary who comes to take over. That has, from the beginning of time, you see that always perpetuated against the children of Israel, and that's what we're seeing today. You see, the term gentrification is exactly what you see. When the children, or when somewhere along the lines between that generation who worked hard, right, to obtain the land, to sacrifice, to own, because there was a time that you didn't even have the right to own the land. So now you have parents who work hard, or grandparents, great-grandparents, right, who worked against their will, and finally to get to a point now to be able to own a piece of land. And now you have a generation, and I believe what happens between that generation who feared God, who worked so tirelessly, and to this generation who don't even understand the importance. What happened there is there has been a loss for the fear of God. When you lose the fear of God, and you lose the honor for God, lose the honor for authority, lose the righteous tradition that was handed over to you, you minimize the value of it, then an enemy will definitely arise and take over what you have. Now, once the adversary take over, it's not going to be easy to get it back. There has to be a massive move of repentance to heal the land, for there to be restoration, for there to be any reparation or restitution. Because unless there is that, because first of all, you're fighting a war that is already fought in the realm of the spirit. We see the manifestation in the natural realm. We see it and we identify it as gentrification. But it first took place in the spirit realm. When you turn your back, when you have a generation who turn their back on their God, So now that gives the enemy, you give up your birthright. You sell your birthright for nothing like Esau. Parents work for years, leave a house. In some cases, all they have to do is pay the tax on it. Somebody run to the courthouse and buy it for nothing. And now, so now these people have children. Their children have to rent from the same people who got the house for nothing. You see that? So now, the labor of your parents and your grandparents, now you become enslaved.
To something that was already yours.
It was already yours, but now you become a slave. So, as we speak now, there is modern day slavery. Because of disobedience. Because you fail to obey the principle. You fail to identify the old landmarks that was given to you. And when you do that, you'll find yourself living beneath. And God's original plan was for you to live above. He said you shall be what? The head and not the tail. Above and not beneath. But when you fail to honor God.
And the irony is, this is in a time